Everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Wednesday. It's November 22nd. It is 2023. We have 14, yes, it's not a mispronounce, 14 NBA games to talk about here on today's podcast. And let's just be honest, none of them are going to be as good as Atlanta and Indiana from Tuesday night. What a basketball game. Over 300 actual points, just wild. Joined today by my buddy Keith Eys819. Keith, again, nothing wild like that, but we do have a monster slate here.
Yeah, massive slate before the day off on the holiday for the NBA. Obviously, we'll have a great football slate there for Thanksgiving, but no basketball. So we got to jam it all into this Wednesday slate. Nice big 14-gamer. No 252.5 totals, I think, and 252.5, like you said, not even close to enough. 309 points in that game. Just a wild basketball game. We had Cleveland and Philly in overtime as well. So you're going to need a bunch of points if you're still sweating the Tuesday night games with us.
Pretty sure they locked the Pacers into the next round of the in-season tournament. I think they won their group. So, yeah, wild stuff. But yeah, 14 games, no time to mess around, time to jump right in and have some fun with this slate. If you haven't already, subscribe to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind YouTube page. Help us out. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers for the end of the year. I haven't been pushing it enough. It's probably not going to happen. But hey, it can happen if you hit the subscribe button and help us out. Washington at Charlotte is where we get started here. 242.5 total in this game. Charlotte is a 4-point favorite. Wright is out for Washington. Cody Martin, Nick Lakina, Rozier out for Charlotte. Let's start with Washington. Any thoughts here on the Wizards?
Yeah, I mean, if there is a game that's anything like Indy Atlanta yesterday, it is this game. Big old total, like you said. Not quite to the extreme that we had yesterday, but both teams play fast, don't play any defense whatsoever. So definitely a game you want to target. A lot of the teams on back-to-backs, pretty much anyone that played on Tuesday is on a back-to-back here. So there is going to be some news we're waiting on, I think. But this being the first game of the night, I think you want some exposure here. Washington side, I mean, Poole finally had that breakout game that we've been waiting for. The shot has not been there for him all season, but 30 points in that game against Milwaukee last time out, still only 6,300. So Jordan Poole and his price, we've known this upside is coming. We've been chasing it for quite a while. Now he gets a fantastic matchup here against Charlotte. Definitely think you can go right back there. Kuzma has plenty of upside to pay off his 8,200 price tag. Avdia as well, a mid-range price tag is certainly in play. It gets tough from there for Washington. Tyus Jones, not playing quite the minutes that we want to see from him. So he's a tough click. Gafford has a fantastic matchup, but again, it's a minutes thing for him. The price tag on him all the way down to 4,200. So Gafford with probably the best matchup you can ask for a big man against Charlotte. I think he's very much in play. Even if he only plays like 26 minutes in this spot, he could certainly get there. Depending on what value we have, Koulibaly has been getting some extra minutes, but we probably don't need him on this slate. If there's news we're waiting on, I'd probably skip him. But Kuzma, Poole, Avdia, and Gafford definitely in play for me.
Yeah, so again, we got two of the bottom three defensive rating teams and two of the top 10 teams in pace in the NBA. Another fantastic spot. Like, just an overall game that you want to target. This is a game, even on a 14-game slate, you can have like 2 to 4 players from this game because it's such a fantastic game. So, I mean, Kuzma, I think, has the upside. I mean, Jordan Poole, we 26 shots. If he's going to take this many shots, like, finally, we've been waiting. And, like, he didn't do anything else. He scored 30 actual points, didn't do anything else. Still didn't hit, like, DFS value. But, like, we've been waiting for him to take 25-plus shots. The other assists and stats will come. So, like the Gafford call as well at 4,200, I think that's too cheap for him, especially in this matchup. Charlotte continues to be one of the worst teams in the NBA against big men. Charlotte side here, I mean, this might be a spot we look at Ball at 10-2, and, you know, the price is somewhat tough, but Miles Bridges entered the starting lineup the other night. He played 45 minutes. He's been a fantastic value play. Now he's at 7,200, it makes you think twice about playing him, but I don't think you think twice about it in this matchup. I mean, these two guys are the main pieces here. Gordon Hayward is going to play a bunch of minutes. You get a little bit of upside here with Mark Williams. Wish he was a little bit cheaper, but I mean, this is a game. Like I said, I think you can get 2 to 4 pieces from this game.
Yeah, definitely interested in the Charlotte side here as well. The Miles Bridges thing, he's been an auto click the last couple of games at his mid 5K price tag. They finally elevated him up to 7,200. That's pretty much an appropriate price, but it is a fantastic matchup, like you said. So can definitely still play some Bridges. LaMelo is fine. He's priced up, but he should be in this matchup. I think there's a ton of ceiling there. And Mark Williams is my favorite play on the Charlotte side here. 6,500, but like this guy has shown a massive rebounding ceiling, 16 in the last one. He's been up around 15 multiple times this year. So definitely think you could still play him at 6,500. Washington, another soft matchup for big men. So love the spot for Mark Williams. Gordon Hayward, the other guy I really like in this spot. 6,400 is a nice price tag. I know Bridges has come in here and taken up a ton of usage, but Gordon Hayward has still been fine. And now he's got a price reduction as well in a fantastic matchup. So I think Gordon Hayward is very playable. Probably don't get to Washington now that he's likely to come off the bench as Bridges steps in for him. Brandon Miller, playable in this matchup, but 5,300 is a little bit rich. Mark Williams, my favorite play here. I'd probably go Gordon Hayward second.
So I will say, like, PJ Washington, like, moving to a bench role is going to give him more usage with that second unit. We just need the price to come back down to like 5K. Like we need like when he has like that 35-point game to get like the 7X instead of like getting, 6X. So PJ Washington, we put him off to the side. We hope he has a few bad games and his price goes down and we can take advantage of it because his usage is going to be higher with that second unit than it is with like LaMelo and these guys on the floor together. Denver at Orlando, facing my Magic back-to-back for Orlando. 218.5 total. Denver a 4-point favorite in this game. Jamal Murray remains out for Denver. I assume no Wendell Carter Jr. for the Magic. Don't know about Fultz. I know he's getting closer from what I've read. He has resumed practicing, so we'll see on Fultz or not, whether or not he comes back. Very young team. I don't think a back-to-back really affects this team too much. Let's go Denver first. Jokic, you can't get ejected at 12-8, dude. You just can't.
That was painful.
Yeah, tough matchup. Magic, fantastic defensive team. They rank first in defensive rating this season. They keep flip-flopping with Minnesota. What do you like here for Denver?
Yeah, really tough matchup. Like you said, Orlando has been outstanding on the defensive end. Coming into Tuesday's game, they were number 1 in the NBA in defensive rating. I don't think their performance against Toronto did anything to hurt that. So really tough defensive matchup here. Obviously, you can play Jokic anytime, but 12-5 is a tough ask in a slower pace game with a good defensive team on the other side. So not sure how much I get to Jokic. Of course, he can put up 80 in any spot, but I'm not loving this game environment overall. Gordon is priced up appropriately now. Michael Porter Jr. kind of the same. Like Murray's been out long enough where all the pricing here has adjusted, and now they have this tough matchup against Orlando. So getting to Denver, I'm struggling with a little bit. I'll sprinkle in some Jokic just because he can always have that type of game, but I'm probably out on everything else.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this on the podcast yesterday for Toronto, and like Scotty Barnes has been fantastic. I think he ended with like 34 fantasy points. Siakam was someone I said you could take some shots on. He had like 31. They just continue to shut people down. And Jokic is on another level. Don't get me wrong. Jokic can have a big game, but like you're paying max price for all these guys because Murray has been out. So I'm probably going to put Denver on the shelf in this one. If anything, maybe take a couple shots on like Reggie Jackson. Just because he's 5,600, but it's a 14-game slate. By the time 6:30 rolls around on Wednesday, we're going to have a lot of value on a 14-game slate. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
Orlando side here, Goga. I mean, he had a big game on Tuesday night, played a lot in that one. I don't know how much you worry about like him potentially getting in foul trouble here against Jokic, but and like Toronto uses so many big guys that maybe that's why Goga played so much on Wednesday, but he ended up, I think, with like 31 minutes in that game. just absolutely filled up the stat sheet. Like he didn't do anything, but he blocked a ton of shots. I don't know how many he actually blocked, but I think it was like 3, 4, or 5. So just been a fantastic defensive ad for the Orlando Magic this season. Again, like looking at Paulo and Franz Wagner and these guys, it's just tough. Cole Anthony potentially, but I'm probably staying away from this game.
Yeah, I'm pretty much staying away from this game as well. The Goga playing so many minutes on Tuesday actually has me a little fearful they'll cut back on him. Maybe you could take some shots on Mo Wagner, just assuming that Goga plays fewer minutes and also has potential foul trouble against Jokic. But like you said, there's going to be so much value by the time this slate kicks off. I don't think we need to be playing these fringy pieces here in the early games. If Fultz makes it back, it makes everyone else pretty much unplayable. Cole Anthony had a nice game on Tuesday night as well, but if Fultz is playing, I can't go back there. Don't have a ton of interest anyway against Denver, even if Fultz misses again. Franz is okay at that price, but nothing to love here. Like you said, probably just stay away from this one being an early game here.
Orlando, yeah, they're a tough team to figure out. They're so good defensively that like they're hurting their offensive ceiling a little bit. All right, we got Milwaukee at Boston. Big game here as far as competitiveness. 235.5 total. Celtics a 5.5 point favorite in this one. On the Milwaukee side, Crowder remains out. Lillard is probable, and then on the Boston side, they're good to go. Looking at Milwaukee first, I mean, I talked about this the other day. Malik Beasley has been playing a lot of minutes with Jay Crowder out. I think that continues here. He's now 5K. Like DFS wise, I don't know how much we get to Malik Beasley, but I mean, the minutes are nice. I made the mistake of saying don't play Giannis the other night. He went 20 for 23. He shot 87% and stuck it in my face. He was dunking on me. What do you got here for Milwaukee?
Yeah, it's tough. Tough matchup against Boston. Dame and Giannis together. We still don't quite know what this is going to look like long term. I think it's starting to come into focus a little bit, though, and that's that Giannis is still going to be the alpha, and Dame is going to kind of have to be the one that yields. So as long as Giannis is under 12K, I think you can definitely take shots on him. The upside in this game just comes from it being a competitive game. Like Boston's a really good defensive team, but Giannis can win in any matchup. So I think you have to have a little bit of interest here in Giannis. Like overall game environment doesn't look great, but if it's a close competitive game between two really strong teams, maybe like they get back and forth in that fourth quarter and you get big minutes out of the stars, and that's how Giannis ends up getting there. I don't have any interest in anybody else outside of Giannis on the Milwaukee side.
Yeah, I don't even know how much I get to Giannis, to be honest. But I made that mistake once already this week. So play him anytime you want. I mean, Boston side, like Tatum continues to be fantastic. I don't think people realize just how good he's been this season. He's averaging 28, 9, and 4. He's 10-3 is expensive, but he's averaging 49 fantasy points per game this season. He's at the top of my list as far as like, you know, seeing how the slate kind of shapes up. Milwaukee is not as good as they were, you know, over the last few years defensively. I think Tatum could have a big game. I mean, you're rolling the dice with everybody else. Porzingis, Brown, Holiday, White. Like, they're going to have good games from time to time, but I think, like, Tatum's going to give you, the most consistent ceiling on this team.
Yeah, I agree. It's Tatum for me. The Tatum Giannis stack would be really tough to get to. Maybe we have enough value to make that work, but he's really the only guy I have interest in here. Pritchard did see a nice little bump in minutes, 33 minutes in that last one. I don't think we can expect to see that again, but I don't know if he's going to be out there that much at 4,700. This is a good matchup against Milwaukee, like you mentioned. Derek White is the other one that I have slight interest in. Just the price tag of 6,200 is a little bit rich. I wish he was like 5,800. I would have more interest there. Holiday's too expensive. Brown and Porzingis, I just don't think they have quite the upside that Tatum does. I would try to find a way up to Tatum, but just, again, not an overall exciting game.
It really isn't.
I mean, real life basketball, it's great, but
yeah,
DFS wise, not very exciting.
Yeah, I agree with you. It'd be really interesting to see how this game kind of shapes up tomorrow. Brooklyn at Atlanta. This game is currently sitting at 233.5, and Atlanta is a 4-point favorite. Atlanta on the second end of a back-to-back. We'll see if any injury news comes out tomorrow. Ben Simmons, Dennis Smith Jr., Cam Thomas out for Brooklyn. We'll start here with Brooklyn. What do you like here for the Nets?
Yeah, I mean, fantastic matchup. We just saw Indiana put up how many ever points, 150, whatever. So you have to have some interest here in Brooklyn, especially with Atlanta coming off the back-to-back. The pricing is a little bit tough. You can always play Bridges. Claxton is in play at 5,900, I think. The minutes have not quite been all the way back since he came back from the injury, so a little caution there. Don't like playing Dinwiddie much. I think Lonnie Walker might be my price-adjusted favorite play in this game. He's kind of taken on the Cam Thomas role with him out. Like, they need a scorer in that secondary unit for sure. And Lonnie Walker's put up 17 shots and 18 shots in his last 2 games. The minutes are up as well with Dennis Smith Jr. out. So Lonnie Walker looks like a pretty attractive value piece at like 5,900. I'm not sure how many people are getting there. But I'm just noting that usage bump here in the last couple of games for him. Cam Johnson very much in play at 5,700. He does a little bit of everything. He's going to be out there for a bunch of minutes. That's probably about where I'm stopping here. I feel like I should have more interest in this Brooklyn team than I do. Just getting to Bridges is tough. Dinwiddie's not an attractive play typically, and Claxton hasn't been playing the minutes. So that leaves Cam Johnson and Lonnie Walker as my 2 favorites, I think.
I wouldn't be shocked if Claxton gets a little bit of a minute bump here. My favorite play from Brooklyn is Lonnie Walker. The minutes, the shots, the usage. I mean, this is a guy that chucked 11 threes against Philadelphia the other night. So I worry about this game staying close, to be honest. But, I mean, you can't project blowouts in the NBA. You know, you can have an idea of who's going to beat who, but projecting blowouts is where it gets, tricky overall. But yeah, I mean, I have interest in Lonnie Walker. I mean, you could take shots on Bridges and Dinwiddie, and I wouldn't talk you off of them. This is a fantastic matchup for them. The Atlanta side of this one, I mean, defensively, the defense is going to be a little bit down here for Brooklyn. What do you like here for Atlanta?
I don't know. Coming off that game, Trae Young played almost 40 minutes. I don't love him in this spot here on the back-to-back. I think Jalen Johnson is fine. Murray played a bunch of minutes as well. I think I'd go Murray over Trae just for the savings in this spot. I don't know. I'm really concerned about Atlanta. They played a bunch of minutes. It was a super fast-paced game. So I feel like we could see it wouldn't surprise me to see one of Young or Murray pop up as questionable for a rest type situation in this spot. If that's the case, if we get one of the stars out, then the value becomes incredible here on this Atlanta team. Bogdanovich would come into play there. Bay had a nice game on Tuesday night. I think you can go back to him at 4,900 if he's going to continue to get run. Kongwu's price is climbing now, and he wasn't even that great on Tuesday, but he's a guy that I don't mind shots on. Just I wish he was 4,500 instead of 5K. Yeah, tough spot for Atlanta on the back-to-back after a really fast-paced game last night.
Yeah, definitely interested to see what the injury report looks like. If everybody plays, I mean, I was way too heavily invested in Saddiq Bey, props wise and DFS wise, but I would go back to him here at 4,900. I really like his current role with the Atlanta Hawks. I think he's a really interesting play again. Toronto at Indiana. Hey, the other team from that game. Both these teams on the back-to-back, so we don't have an injury report here. 237.5 total. The Pacers a 4-point favorite here. Toronto bounce back spot. I mean, you go from facing one of the worst or toughest defenses to facing one of the worst defenses. I mean, this is a spot we hope people got a little, I don't know how many people played Toronto, to be honest, on Tuesday night, but hopefully you just get some game log watchers. What are your thoughts here on the Raptors?
Yeah, I mean, you have to love the matchup here. Toronto plays at a slow pace, unfortunately, but Indiana should speed them up here quite a bit. So Scotty Barnes has been amazing this season. Once he was up above 9K, it's okay, maybe we need to pump the brakes a little bit on Scotty, but back down to 8,600 in one of the best matchups you can ask for. I like Scotty Barnes quite a bit here. Siakam, I just don't know if the role is consistent enough to take shots. 8K is a very attractive price tag, so I think he's fine as well. Schroeder at 6,500 has kind of been inconsistent as well, but I think there's upside there at that price tag. Pirtle doesn't play enough minutes for me to want to go there. Anunoby, kind of the same thing. We've seen him under 30 the last two. I'm not sure exactly what he played Tuesday night, but I'm probably not getting there. It's Barnes is the main target here. I think you could play some Siakam and Schroeder too.
Pacer side, I mean, Halliburton, what a game. Absolutely
incredible.
Smashed.
26 points in the third quarter. Holy cow.
9 threes. He made 9 threes. 37 and 16. What a game. And like expert survey hot take today is I put down Halliburton's going to have a 30-20 game. I was close.
Almost.
Yeah. If there was ever a spot. So yeah, I mean, going back to the well on Halliburton is kind of tough here. The matchup is much tougher. He's coming off of a monster game, running back and forth all night. I'm not in love with the Pacers here unless we get some news that like people are going to start sitting.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like same feelings as I had on Atlanta. Like coming off of that game, man, they just have to be gassed as quick as much up and down as went on in that game. Like Indy also rolled out a really weird lineup with Nembhard getting rolled out. They sat Toppin, they moved to the bench, but then he played like 33 minutes, and Neesmith, who started for him, only played like 20. So keep an eye on the starting lineup here. Like Indy is doing some weird things with their rotation. Isaiah Jackson, they've been getting involved even more. Like Jalen Smith barely played. The Indy rotation is all over the place. So unless we get some people out with injury here, I'd be concerned about taking some shots here. What did Mathurin end up doing here? I'm pulling that up real quick on the fly. Mathurin only played 20 minutes. They moved him to the bench as well. So just some weird stuff with the Indy rotation. Maybe that was in part because they knew the back-to-back was coming. So maybe a guy like Mathurin, who only played 20 minutes on Tuesday night, is very much in play here. The more I'm looking at it, like Mathurin is the guy that's popping off for me here. But just being on the back-to-back, it's tough to know.
Yeah, I mean, Turner, if Turner were to sit here potentially, I mean, Obi Toppin would be someone I think you could take a shot on. So I think you're really kind of paying attention to the injury report. Excuse me. Oh man, excuse me. Paying attention to the Toronto game puts me asleep. I was looking at the next game when I yawned, just for what it's worth. All right, Miami at Cleveland. All jokes aside, 213.5 total here. Miami Heat, a 2.5-point favorite. Bam probable hero. Kevin Love and RJ Hampton out for Miami. On the Cleveland side, like I don't know if Mitchell will be back. I did read a report that he's getting closer. And we don't know if LeVert is going to be back or not, whether they were just sitting him on the first down with his knee bothering him. Let's go Miami first. I mean, the guy that has definitely benefited from Tyler Hero being out is Bam, but now he's 8,900. He's been expensive here recently. What are your thoughts on this Miami team? Duncan Robinson had 10 or 11 points in the first quarter the other night. What do you like for Miami?
Yeah, tough matchup here against Cleveland, but we got to keep an eye on that injury report. I wouldn't be surprised if Cleveland kind of does some things. Garland banged his wrist in that game as well. He was favoring that heavily in the second half. So Garland sitting in this game would not surprise me, especially if Mitchell can make it back for this game. But definitely keep an eye on the injury report for Cleveland. I would not be surprised at all to see some people pop up there. Really tough matchup for Bam, assuming that Jared Allen and Evan Mobley are both playing this game. And that kind of makes it unexciting overall because Bam is typically the guy I like to play here on Miami. Butler just hasn't been shooting the ball as much this season. He had that one breakout game a couple of games ago. But overall, like his usage has been down. He's still 8K. Duncan Robinson's price has come up enough, and he doesn't do much outside of scoring to where he's a major target for me. Kyle Lowry is pretty much washed at this point. Jaquez, I suppose, at 5,100 is an okay target. His minutes have been trending in the right direction. But yeah, like it's a tough matchup for Bam. I'm not interested in Jimmy. Robinson and Jaquez probably the two plays here if you're looking for a Miami piece.
Yeah, Jaka is at 5,100. Like his price has even come up now.
Yeah.
Or it's tough. Cleveland side, I mean, it all really kind of depends. Like you said, Garland, that would be huge. If Garland and Levert and Mitchell sit, like, is Craig Porter Jr. like 95% owned?
Yeah, best play on the slate by a mile.
You just click his name and like play him. He crushed again. Like he had a good game. He scored 30 fantasy points. His price has come up a little bit, but like if they both sit again, like even if Garland plays, if both Levert and Mitchell are out, you go back to Porter Jr. here. Someone was asking me earlier in chat on Discord if like what scenarios are you playing Porter? Well, playing Porter if Levert and Mitchell are out, or like Garland, like two of those three guys out, I'm playing Porter. He's definitely earning minutes and playing really well right now for this team. And I mean, they're coming off a big win against the 76ers without Mitchell. So shout out to Tim on the podcast yesterday. He really liked Cleveland. I think it was like +7. So what was it? It was Cleveland +7.5 was the bet that we talked about on the podcast, and he could have just bet the money line. That's not a good call. Call the whole money line. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, paying attention to who's in and who's out here. But Craig Porter Jr. 27 minutes again. He would be a phenomenal. What do you like for Cleveland?
Yeah, not only a back-to-back, but an overtime game as well, and they're traveling. So very tough spot here for Cleveland. That's why. And Garland getting banged up a little bit in the second half. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we get some rest situations. I think Craig Porter Jr. is going to be very much in play on this slate. I don't know exactly who's going to be out, but I think a couple of guys are going to be out at least. And if you get all three of the guards, Mitchell, Garland, and Levert out, Porter's legitimately the best play on the slate. Max Strus has to be in the conversation as well. Another great game from him on Tuesday night. 44 minutes though. Like, man, they've shown a willingness to just run this guy into the ground. So I don't know, a guy who's pretty reliant on shooting, playing 44 minutes is a tough ask for him to come back and put up another nice game. But depending on who's out, I might have interest there. I think Mobley is in play at 7,800. Don't love Bam being on the other side, but Jared Allen went off too. Finally, we've been waiting for it. The price is still at 6,300. I think Jared Allen's playable in the spot. I don't know. Got to see what the injury report looks like. If more guys keep missing Niang, it would be intriguing. Wade probably plays a bundle of minutes, but just doesn't do much out there. Did grab quite a few rebounds Tuesday night, but we'll see what the injury report looks like for Cleveland. I think it's definitely a wait and see thing.
Yeah, you have to wait. Like, you just have to wait. So, all right, Clippers and Spurs. We just had this game, right? Didn't they just play against each other?
Yep.
Yeah, last game out. 124-99. All right. 230.5 total here. Clippers a 9-point favorite in this one. Injury report wise, do they have it submitted? Oh, Vassell questionable and Plumlee out. Boston Jr. out. Okay, so nothing's really changed for these teams except for Vassell. Vassell is questionable instead of doubtful on the injury report night before. Clippers side, hey, they're starting to click. What are they, 3-0, 4-0 since they moved Westbrook to the bench? Shocker. And like James Harden has been playing better. Like he's getting more involved in like assists. I think I read the other day he had 10 assists, 0 turnovers for the 6th time in his career. So that's the kind of stuff you want to see from the Clippers. But DFS wise, this is a tough team to figure out right now. They obviously crushed them the other night. But you don't want them to. You want close games, and I just don't know if San Antonio is going to keep this game close enough. I'm probably off the Clippers here.
Yeah, the blowout risk is real for sure. Paul George is the one that went off in the last matchup. Harden and Kawhi both kind of underperformed. Harden was the most popular of the three, I believe. on that slate, and I think it makes sense to go back to him. Just him being the cheapest of the three, he doesn't need to do quite as much as a PG or Kawhi would need to do in the spot. So I think I'd keep chasing that Harden breakout game. Like you said, playing much better since Westbrook got moved to the bench, handling the ball more. The assists are way up. Like there's a game coming where he's going to put up like 25 and 10 or 12 assists. Like that game is coming for James Harden. The price tag at 7,900 is really attractive. So if San Antonio can keep this game even remotely close, like I probably have a rule where I need a San Antonio piece on the other side if I'm playing Harden, but I do want some exposure to Harden. Like flip a coin between Paul George and Kawhi. Like it's just going to be so hard to figure out which one of those guys is going to have the ceiling game. And I don't think I need to chase it on a 14-game slate, but just still interested because of the Harden price tag.
Yeah, I mean, you're hoping that he has that 10-20 game. Like, get that 10 assists and get those 20-point type of game.
Yeah.
Spurs side, gosh, if the game stays close, that's kind of what you're hoping for here. But, I mean, maybe Keldon Johnson, like, if Vassell sits again. But I don't have a ton of interest in this team. I will say, on the other side, really quick, I forgot to mention Norman Powell. Talked about him a lot the other night about like his new current role with like Westbrook getting put on the bench, and Norman Powell's been closing games for this team in close games. So I don't hate Norman Powell at 5K, and I totally forgot to mention him.
Yep.
San Antonio, what do you got for us today?
Yeah, it's tough. Tough spot for Wemby. The Clippers have a lot of size, a lot of strength, like just veterans that can really body him and keep him under control. We saw him struggle against them last game. That wasn't surprising at all. I think it's another tough spot for him. So the upside outside of him is really tough. It was Keldon that popped off a little bit in that last game, but I don't know if I love that. If Vassell plays, I think you can play him at 6,200. He could be a guy who could score a bunch of points as they try to keep this game close. Maybe Sohan is the other guy who could kind of fill that role where he's just having a really hot shooting night and helps keep this game close. For value, if Champagny is still in the starting lineup, I think you can go back there. The minutes have been inconsistent, even in the starting role, and the production has been inconsistent as well. Like he had that great game, his first game in the starting lineup with 35 points, but he's been under 20 DK points each of the last three. But at 4,100, I think you can still take shots there.
All right, moving along, we got Chicago at OKC taking on the Thunder, 224.5 total here. Thunder, a 7-point favorite. The Thunder are 10-4. Always it's throwing me off,
man.
I mean,
SGA is awesome.
They have done a great job over the last few years building that team. Kind of how I feel about the Magic. Like I wouldn't put the Magic in that. Like the Magic, if they could get like an SGA type to go along with Paolo, oh man. Be fun to watch. So yeah, Chicago side here, injury wise, everything looks okay. There's a lot of probable here, so you'll see a lot of question marks on the thing. And then Jalen Williams out for the Thunder. Going Chicago first here. I mean, I'm gonna keep saying it. I think LaVine has the highest ceiling on most nights. So like tournament wise, it's Zach LaVine for me. I could see a guy like Vooch having a good game. He struggled the first time these two teams played against each other earlier this season. I could see him having a little bit better game. He scored 36 fantasy points. It's not like he struggled. He just didn't have a big game. I like LaVine the most here. I mean, in large field tournaments, I think like depending on what type of value opens up today, you could potentially take a shot on Kobe White.
Yeah, I don't hate the LaVine call. Vooch is the one that I really have my eye on here. Like I know Chet's length is going to be a problem for him, but like he really should be able to do whatever he wants inside against him. I don't know. It feels like this should be a decent matchup for Vooch, just being the veteran over a young guy like Chet. The problem is Chet is so long that he can recover, even if he gets beat or bodied down a little bit down low. Like he can still recover because of his length and block a shot. So I don't know. I'm going back and forth on the Vooch matchup. Feels like it should be a decent one for him. Just DeRozan hasn't done a whole lot this year. Hasn't shown the ceiling at all. Needs to score at least 30, 35 points for him to even be relevant. The Chicago team is a mess. It's hard to like anything here. But I do have some interest in the Oklahoma City side. Just maybe I just play Oklahoma City without Chicago run backs because this, like, the Bulls team is tough to get a handle on. They play really slow as well, but with Jalen Williams out for Oklahoma City, I think there's opportunities there.
Yeah, I mean, the Thunder side of things here. I mean, obviously SGA towards the top, tough matchup. Chicago's a tough team. Put up 60 fantasy points against them. I feel like he's the overlooked like stud that can get you 60 plus. He doesn't get the ownership that some of the other names get in this price range. So I definitely don't mind looking at SGA here. After that, it gets interesting on trying to like figure out like how the minutes are going to play out with Williams out, because I mean Williams is a 30-minute plus minute guy per night. So what are your thoughts here on the Thunder?
Yeah, the price reduction for SGA is the thing that jumped out to me. He's been above 10K all season long, I believe. Every game this season he's been above 10K. So like you said, the matchup against Chicago isn't great. They guard the ball really well. They play slow as well, which is not ideal. But 9,700 for SGA, who has flashed 60 fantasy point upside multiple times this year. I'm still interested at that price, especially with Jalen Williams out. Like that opens up some usage. Like Jalen Williams just does a little bit of everything for this team. So more rebounds available, more assists available. I have interest in the secondary pieces here. Giddey really struggled in that last game without Jalen Williams, who he's kind of the one I feel like would benefit the most from Williams being out, but I don't know. Cason Wallace is the guy that jumped into the starting lineup, but he did absolutely nothing. So it's just hard to get a gauge on the last game and how it played without Jalen Williams. I feel like Giddey should be in play here. I know SGA is in play. I definitely have interest there. And I think you can always play Chet for the upside. He didn't have a great game without Jalen Williams the last game either. So the slow pace of Chicago does worry me a little bit for the game environment, but the SGA price is extremely attractive. Maybe Dort at 4,700. He just hasn't done anything offensively, so it's really tough on a 14-game slate. Looking like it might just be SGA that I have interest in.
Yeah, it's like they're 10-4. They're having a fantastic season. They're playing great, and it's SGA.
Yeah,
I mean it's Holmgren in like certain matchups that I don't think this is the one you want to play him in. So It was like the first time these two teams played. It was the first game of the season. The Thunder did win that game by 20. So, I mean, it's tough. It's tough, And
Chet wasn't playing as many minutes back then either. So I don't mind shots on Chet at 7,500. I think he's probably the second piece. Like Giddey just hasn't had the role. Like I really expected him to have a decent game last game, and it just didn't happen. So I think Chet would be the second piece I'm looking at here.
For sure. All right, we got Sacramento at New Orleans, 236.5 total here. The Kings, a 2-point favorite in this one. Duarte questionable. Ellis out. Lynn out. Lyles questionable. Keegan Murray questionable for Sacramento. McCollum, Murphy, Matt Ryan out. Larry Nance questionable for the Pelicans. We'll start here with Sacramento. Man, I was so high on Fox the other night, and he just had a terrible game in the same matchup. Shot 2 for 12 from 3. Just had it was a really bad shooting night. It was worst shooting night of the season. It was on the second end of a back-to-back. He just didn't have a great game. I think this is a spot you go back to the well if you like the upside for De'Aaron Fox. I think this is a spot that he could have a really solid game. And then watch how the injury news kind of plays out here for Sacramento. If Murray ends up missing this game, going to be minutes. There's going to be minutes to go around. Like Matt Ryan, he's a guy that plays like 20 plus minutes most nights. So watch the news here for Sacramento. There could be some nice value pieces here.
Yeah, I love the Fox call. I'm going right back to him too. Like he's a guy who looks like he's on the verge. Like he kind of broke out last year, but it looks like he's taking a legitimate step forward into, like, I don't know, just a really good player. Like this Kings team quite a bit, and Fox is the engine here. So definitely think you can go right back there. Sabonis at 10-1 is always tough to get to, but there's definitely ceiling in that spot. Herder coming back, a little bit interesting. A guy who definitely needs to put a bunch of points in the bucket. to get there in value, but he's a guy who can shoot some threes and get there. If Murray were to miss that, I think that opens up some things definitely. Got to keep an eye on that. Like, it's not like you would want to run to Harry Barnes or anything, but maybe Duarte, if he plays and Murray misses, would be extremely interesting. He's still under 4K. Davion Mitchell has kind of gotten his role back. Like, they tried out Keon Ellis for a little bit, but it seems like Mitchell is kind of the guy. So
Ellis
keep an eye on the Murray. What's that?
Ellis is out.
Yeah, right. So that's why Davion Mitchell is the guy I'd be looking at there. Yeah, there's some injury situations here to keep an eye on for sure. Duarte could come into play. Davion Mitchell could come into play for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if Duarte and Murray end up sitting too, I mean, I think that's where, like, a guy like Malik Monk, you hope that he gets like 32 minutes. Like, you hope that he gets over that 30-minute mark, and has that like stealing type game. Could see Harrison Barnes having a good game. On the Pelicans side here, I like the price for Zion. I think the price is really fair at 8,400. He's taken really high efficient like shot attempts. He adds steal upside and block upside. I think Zion is probably my favorite play here from the Pelicans.
Yeah, I agree with you. The $8,400 price tag is really nice. It's an up-tempo matchup against Sacramento. So I'm with you. Like, the minutes have been kind of capped in that low 30 range for him. But that's why the price has come down to 8,400. Like, Zion, if he's playing 36 minutes, should be 9K plus. At 8,400, I'm definitely willing to take shots, even if he only gets 32 minutes. I think you can take shots on Ingram as well. I do prefer saving a little bit of money with Zion. I think the ceiling's a little bit higher. And then these secondary pieces are all interesting as well. Like, with McCollum out, we've seen a couple of different people step up at different times. Herb Jones had a nice game last time out. Don't love the price tag at 6,300, but he went for 38 fantasy points in the last game. Dyson Daniels has been playing a bunch of minutes, but just hasn't been all that productive. Hawkins is a guy we've seen pop off a time or two. Like, it just depends on what kind of value we have on the slate, because if I'm needing plays in the mid-range, these Pelicans are definitely guys I would be looking at. You mentioned Matt Ryan being out, a guy that generally plays a few minutes, so maybe a bump to guys like Hawkins or Najee Marshall even potentially. Like, I don't know. It depends on the value we have on the slate. They're not like elite value plays, so it's very possible that better value will open up. But if it doesn't, then I have some interest here in secondary Pelicans.
All right, up next, we got 76ers and Timberwolves, 218.5 total here. Minnesota at 5.5 point favorite. Philly's on the second end of a back-to-back. Minnesota, no McLaughlin, no McDaniels, no Clark. As far as Philly goes, I assume Kelly Oubre, they said like another week or so. So we assume he's going to be out again. I don't think anybody else sits here for Philly unless I missed something, but I didn't see anything. Let's go 76ers first here. Tough matchup. We talked about the Magic. We've talked about Minnesota being tough. What do you like here for Philadelphia?
Yeah, tough matchup against Minnesota and on the second end of the back-to-back. So, again, like this, an Embiid rest spot would not surprise me at all. I don't know. We'll have to see what the injury report looks like, but I'd be pretty concerned. Maxey is all the way up to 9K. Like, not to say he doesn't earn that with his role at this point, but it's a little bit of sticker shock at this point. Same can kind of be said with Tobias Harris up at 7,500. Like, Philly has gotten price bumps, which is not great on the second half of a back-to-back in a really tough matchup with Minnesota. So I don't know. Initial thoughts looking at the Philly pricing and the matchup is that I'm just out on Philly.
That's kind of where I'm at. I mean, you can always take shots on Embiid. I hate this matchup for him. You can always take shots on Maxey. Hate this matchup for him. I'm out, I think, on Philadelphia. And honestly, I don't have a ton of interest in the Minnesota side of this game either. I will say, like, Edwards is someone in the prop market that you could always look at, like, his point props, but he hasn't been scoring as much recently, and this is not the best matchup in the world for him. I don't love this game overall.
Yeah, I don't either. Philly has been playing faster this year, but still really good on defense. And Minnesota is always a difficult team to figure out because Like they spread the ball around. Like Ant, like you said, has not been hitting those ceiling games as often this year. Cat at 8,300 is fine. He can find ceiling, but is he really going to do it if Embiid plays? Probably not the spot that I'm chasing that. Don't love the Gobert price. Yeah, I mean, just not enough to like here on Minnesota. Naz Reid's minutes have been below 20 for 5-6 games straight now. So even though his price is now under 4K and he's a huge per minute guy, don't think I can do it against Philly. Probably out on this game altogether.
Yeah, I mean, we have all these games that have like these 230 plus totals, and it's so exciting for those games, and then you get this game and you're like, I hope it stays. I hope no one has their ceiling game. Like I could get away with Embiid having 60 fantasy points at this price. I could get away with Maxey having 50 fantasy points at this price. So I just hope that they don't have a ceiling type games. Memphis at Houston, 213 total. Another really low total here. Houston, a 5.5 point favorites. On the Memphis side, Adams, Clark, Kennard, Morant, Marcus Smith, Tillman out. Houston side, Victor Oladipo out. And Thompson still out. Memphis side, a lot of pieces out. I mean, some key pieces here with Marcus Smith, Tillman, Kennard. They're all guys that play minutes. We've seen the prices rise on some of these guys that are benefiting. What do you like here for Memphis?
I mean, we have to mention the Santi Aldama 60 ball in the last spot. Like, where did that come from? He jumped in the starting lineup randomly and just dropped 60 fantasy points.
He don't think anybody thought times.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody thought he had that in him. Don't get me wrong, he's a nice fantasy player when he gets the run, but 60, I don't think anybody thought had in him. Don't expect that again. I think he's still playable at 6,100. Just you don't need 60 fantasy points, but definitely don't expect it. You can always play Bane and Triple J for their ceilings. Not a great matchup though, like you mentioned. Houston, another one of those surprise defensive teams. They've been much better on the defensive end this season. So not a great spot. I think Bane is my favorite play here. Aldama, I assume that he's going to stick in the starting lineup after that performance. Gilliard has lost a ton of run here recently. Zaire Williams has lost all of his run. So the rotation is kind of hard to figure out. And it's a tough matchup. So nothing I'm in love here. I think Aldama and Bane would be the top two.
Santu, keep it going. Let's go. I mean, you can always take shots on Triple J in large field tournaments. He hasn't been playing well, but that has definitely made his price come way down. He has 50-point upside on any given slate. So, I mean, I don't mind potentially taking some shots on him. You're gonna get a few value pieces that are going to project well in this game. So it'd be really interesting to see what the minutes look like projection wise. But yeah, I mean, we have a little bit of sample size on what we're looking at here with Memphis with these guys out, and it's still tough. I mean, it's still tough. Houston side, I mean, I think this is a good spot for Van Vliet. I feel like he could have a really big game here at 7,700. He's kind of another one of these mid-tier range options that I could see playing really well. I always like taking shots on Sengun. In a monster game the other night against Golden State. What do you like here for Houston?
Yeah, tough spot for Sengun. Not that Bismack is great on defense, but you always have Triple J lurking there to help protect the rim as well. So don't love this spot for Sengun. I think it would be Van Vliet or Jalen Green that I'm looking to find a little bit of upside here. I don't know if I can get to much else beyond that. Don't love the spot for Jabari Smith. Eason not playing a ton of minutes, and the price tag is 4,200 for a guy that's going to play 18 minutes more than likely. I don't know if I can do that. Great per minute producer if he gets the run, but just there's too many bigs here for that to happen. Jalen Green at 6,300, I think is, if you don't want to take shots on Van Vliet, who's been a little bit inconsistent, Jalen Green has been as well, but I think the scoring upside is still there for Jalen Green.
All right, moving on. We got Utah, the Jazz they were getting blown out by the Lakers last time I checked. They're still losing by 21. So I just want everyone to know Jordan Clarkson just ruining my night. This game has a 225.5 total. The Jazz a 4-point favorite. Utah on a back-to-back and Portland on a back-to-back. So we won't have an injury report for this one. Let's go Utah first. I mean, I assume Kessler will still be out. And like I said, we're just getting absolutely wrecked by Jordan Clarkson. Oh, yeah, I know. I feel you, Derek, in chat. I feel you. All right, what do you like here for Utah?
Yeah, I mean, you have to love the matchup against Portland here. Although Brogdon is back, so maybe they're a little bit better team than they have been over the past few weeks. But, man, I don't know. On the
play.
What's that? Brogdon.
Do you think he plays?
On the back-to-back, you're probably right. He probably sits.
Hamstring injury, missed 5 games. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're probably right there. So that's intriguing. Definitely hurts the Portland defense a little bit. I'm just trying, like, Keontae George is still playable at 5,600. I don't know that I get to marking in this spot, especially if there's blowout risk. If Brogdon sits, Clarkson's price is now up to 7,500. Like, I really want to play him more in the 6,800 range. So not sure I get there. Collins has been playing phenomenal. That he might be my favorite play. His price is coming up though too. I think they're just priced for this matchup is really more the thing. THT at 5,300 is in play. Even off the bench, he's been fine in this role. Minutes are inconsistent though, so just know you might just end up with only 21 minutes out of him or something like that. But I think he's in play at 5,300 in this matchup, and who knows who gets the blowout run? It would be another thing. Maybe we get a few answers if they wave the white flag here against the Lakers. Maybe we get some answers on who could see some blowout run. Sexton is a guy that comes to mind in that spot. They're all kind of appropriately priced, in my opinion, getting bumps for the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, for me on the Jazz, they're a really tough team. Like you said, Collins or Marketing are okay, but they're not my favorite plays here. I mean, I don't necessarily hate Sexton, but you're always worried about his run. I hate to say it. I mean, I probably am staying away from Utah in this spot. And then on the Portland side, they have enough people out that matter, like Henderson and obviously Simons. So, like, if Brogdon sits, I have a ton of interest in Portland in this game. So I would likely run it back with one Utah player, maybe Clarkson again, because I like Payne. I do. It's very fun. But yeah, I mean, on the Portland side, it really just depends on like if Brogdon plays or not. Because if he plays, it really, like, all these guys are priced for him being out. So if he sits, that's where we get some value here for Portland. We'll see what they do. He played 25 minutes on Tuesday night. We'll see if they play him on the back-to-back. He dealing with a hamstring injury and he was out for 5 games. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, the fact he didn't play a ton of minutes, maybe he has a chance to play. If he would have played like 32 minutes on Tuesday night, there's no chance he's playing. But they took it a little easy on him. Maybe they're doing that so that he can play in this spot. But like, that's really what I have my eye on. Skylar Mays is a guy who would definitely enter the conversation if Brogdon sits. The price was starting to get up there, but it's kind of corrected now that Brogdon came back and played at 6,400. He's playable at that spot. Ayton looked like he was going to smash in that game Tuesday, but just ended up falling off a little bit. Hasn't been great this season, so not a lot to like there. Sharp is a guy who's playing a ton of minutes. He's probably my favorite option here, even though he's struggled a little bit with his shot. Like, he can pop off for these big games. Jeremy Grant, another guy that's playing a ton of minutes. And this is like, I'm probably only playing anybody from Portland if Brogdon sits, but those guys would be interesting.
That's where I'm at. I want to see, like, if Brogdon plays or not.
Yeah. I do want to note that Duop Reith, their backup center, has been seeing a lot more run here recently, and he's a big per minute producer. Like I said, it's a 14-game slate. Who knows what the value is going to look like on this slate, but if we're starved for value, he's not a play that I hate.
He played 13. Played 13 minutes. Yeah, Kamara, 39 minutes again. Continue to watch that. Golden State at Phoenix, 232.5 total here. Suns a 2.5-point favorite. Phoenix on the second end of a back-to-back. Draymond out, suspension, and Gary Payton questionable. I read a report from Devin Booker. Looked like he came up limping. So we'll kind of pay attention to that. I think he was able to finish out the game though. So just that would be huge, obviously, for like Grayson Allen, Eric Gordon type plays. So pay attention, watch that news. Golden State, what do you like here for the Warriors?
Not a ton, honestly. Like it's a tough team to figure out. Like with Draymond out, Steph is priced up. I don't know that I'm getting to a ton of these guys. Chris Paul was pretty good the last time out. I don't know Kevon Looney, but they keep on doing this weird thing with Saric, where Saric started for a couple of games, so it's hard to trust Looney's minutes at this point. I don't know. Golden State is just a tough team to figure out right now. Even without Draymond, there's not a ton that I'm interested in, honestly.
Yeah, I like Chris Paul's point assist like prop. I was just looking to see if it was out yet. It's not out yet, but it'd be interesting to see what that comes in. I think like 21 and a half and under. I like the over on 21 and a half. So I hope it comes in at that line because, I mean, I think Chris Paul is someone that is going to continue to see an increase in usage and assist rate with Draymond out. And like Clay is now getting to the point where you're taking shots on him and just hoping he has that like lights out game because he's so cheap. Like,
yeah, 5,800 for a guy who can score 40 actual points in a game. Granted, it's been a really long time since we've seen it, but theoretically, it's still in there.
He had his first 20-point night the other night, like against Houston.
That's
it was the
insane.
first time this season he scored 20 points, but he came back from injury and like started slow last year. And obviously, like maybe he's just getting off to a slow start, but he's too cheap, especially with like Chris Paul dishing out the rock, man. The Phoenix side, I like Kevin Durant today way more than I probably should. I think that Kevin Durant just absolutely goes bonkers in this game.
Yeah, I like that call. He's been playing incredible here recently. Obviously didn't get the run Tuesday because they blew him out. I think Golden State has a better chance of keeping this game close. If Booker is out, then, I mean, Durant's the best spend up on the slate for sure. Gordon would definitely be a guy that jumps into the conversation if Booker happens to miss on a back-to-back. Grayson Allen as well. I don't know. It's Durant only if Booker plays for me. If Booker sits, then I think Gordon and Allen are good looks.
Yeah, I mean, if Booker is out, I think you're bumping up a lot of pieces here. I could see Nurkic having a good game if he got the minutes. That's what you're worried about the most here. He played 27 minutes against this team earlier this year and scored 39 fantasy points. So, like, he has a little bit of upside, and just kind of want to see, like, if this Booker thing is really a thing or not. Because it really kind of depends on, like, how you're going to approach this team. All right, Dallas at LA taking on the Lakers, 234.5. Mavs a 1.5 point favorite. Lakers on the back-to-back. They're going to get the rest people because they're absolutely smashing the Jazz right now. Seth Curry is questionable for Dallas, and Kleber remains out. So let's go Dallas first. Luka 11-8, playing with Kyrie. Really haven't seen that like huge ceiling game for Luka. Almost needs to be like 10-2. Like, I know it's wild, but it's true, right? So
yep.
I just don't have a ton of interest here. Like the secondary pieces on like Lively and like Hardaway, their prices are like weird for a slate like this. Like, I don't know. Derek Jones Jr. is someone, but I don't have a ton of interest in Dallas outside of like closing my eyes and clicking Luka and hoping he has a big game against the Lakers.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what you have to do. Like, we just aren't seeing it near as much as we're used to. So until that price adjusts, but it's hard for the price to adjust because about the time that it does come down, bam, he scores 70 fantasy points and it's right back up to 12K. So I don't know. I'm with you. Like, it feels crazy to sit here and say we can't play Luka in daily fantasy, but that's kind of where we're at with Kyrie and how this team is. Like, I need that price to be a little bit lower.
What's crazy is I think I'd rather play Kyrie.
Just because of the savings. Yeah, at least his price is like coming down and adjusting for it. Like Kyrie under 9K, I think there's room for 50 fantasy points there if he's going off. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with that completely. I'd rather play Kyrie, which is crazy.
Not things you think you'd say.
Definitely not.
Oh man. The Lakers side, I mean, LeBron and Anthony Davis are both under 10K. So I wouldn't be opposed to taking a shot on one of these two guys. I don't know if you get to both of them because you probably want to run it back with like a Kyrie. What are your thoughts on the Lakers?
Yeah, it'd be AD for me. I think just LeBron on the back-to-back. I could see them being. I know he's probably not going to end up playing a ton of minutes on Tuesday, but still, like I think they'd be pretty cautious with him in the spot. So AD for me. I think he has a little bit higher ceiling anyway. Especially like Dallas isn't great inside. Austin Reeves is a guy you can certainly play. Coming off the bench should have a huge usage rate. So I think you can continue to play him unless the price adjusts. But 5,600 very much in play. Cam Reddish left the game early, which is worth noting because he's been playing a bunch of minutes. I would not be surprised if he sits in this next game. So
Max
that brings
Christie, right?
Max.
He's played
been getting
16,
a lot of run here.
He's played 16 minutes and garbage time hasn't started yet. So he's 3K. I was going to mention that too. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was like,
yeah, no.
Max Christie is what I was thinking.
Yep, love that call. I think Taurean Prince's minutes would be more secure as well. But yeah, I think Christie would be the biggest benefactor. Maybe Rui gets a little bit of extra run. Like Reeves is going to get his either way. So I think you're looking further down for the guy. I love the Christie call.
Or like Hachimura. You're not, I don't know. You're not playing Prince. Like the dude, he might be the worst point per minute producer in the NBA.
For real.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's play the morning grind game, and then we will get out of here. If we don't see you all, hope you have a happy and fantastic Thanksgiving. Yes, wild card. We've already been over this. Clarkson crapped the bed. My goodness, I agree. I am not tilting. I'm very tilted, but I'm not tilting. I had a really good team going. Really good team. Was very high on the Atlanta Indy game. Clarkson got the ownership. I had him and Hachimura, so like I was around the Reddish news. My 2v2 swap today, Keith, you'd be proud. My 2v2 swap today was fantastic. It was Reddish and what's the dude's name from Philly that's been playing some minutes? Springer.
Yeah.
And I switched to Porter and Hachimura. So, oh well.
Yeah, nice move.
Doesn't matter when Clarkson stinks. Anyway, all right. Morning grind game. Favorite play under 5K to go 7X. Who do you got?
So obviously we're waiting. We're going to be waiting on news all day. News is going to be breaking all day with 14 games. Lots of teams on back-to-back, but Craig Porter Jr. has been incredible in his opportunities. I'm pretty confident one of Garland or Mitchell is sitting in this game, possibly LeVert as well. Craig Porter Jr. is going to be a smash again.
I'm going to go to the game we just talked about, and I'm going to go Max Christie. And I just wrote this down. I mean, like, listen, with Reddish getting hurt in the game, they're probably not going to. It was like a groin injury. He's probably not playing it back-to-back. No. So Max Christie could play like 20 minutes here. 25 minutes would be fantastic, but like 3K, like 20 fantasy points is doable. So yeah, Max Christie is who I got for this one. Over 8K to go under 5X. Who's your bust today?
Dame Lillard, 9,100, tough matchup at Boston, and it's just going to be hard for him to find a ceiling playing next to Giannis. So I'll go Dame.
I'm going to go Maxey. I'm not saying Giannis today. I'm going to go Maxey. Tough matchup against Minnesota, 9K, tough price. So give me Maxey not to go 5X today. Who's your favorite 6X play today?
Give me Mark Williams. Love the matchup here against Washington. Dude's been rebounding the heck out of the basketball. Still only 6,500. I think there's plenty of room for some upside at that price in this matchup particularly.
Yeah, I like that call a lot. I mean, both centers in that game I think are interesting. Like you talked about Gafford earlier. I think it's a good spot for Gafford. So my 6X play today is Zion. I think the price on Zion is just right. Like he has upside at this price. He has consistency, and like he scored 45 fantasy points the other night with 3 rebounds, and 45 fantasy points. So I think Zion, the minutes are slowly creeping up to like 33, 34. you get that 35, 36 mark one of these games, and like the price tag is just good for Zion. So I like him a lot today. Let's get weird GPP play of the day. It is a massive, massive slate. Who do you got?
I don't know how many people are going to catch on to this guy's usage bump here recently, but I've got Lonnie Walker. Love the matchup against Atlanta. We love picking on them on Tuesday night, going right back to this matchup here. Lonnie Walker's been been taking a ton of shots. So 5,900, kind of filling that Cam Thomas role. Not sure how popular he's going to be, but I'll take some shots.
I love that call. We talked about him. I'm with you on him. I like it a lot. I'm going to go Zach LaVine. I don't know if Zach LaVine's going to get a ton of ownership today or not. I feel like he's in that like no man's price land. But I like Zach LaVine a lot. He has that questionable tag on DraftKings, which, potentially helps his ownership a little bit. I think this is a spot LaVine could go for like 45 plus fantasy points at 7,300. So really good spot for him. And hopefully he shoots the ball well. It's always about shooting with LaVine. Any bets or props or anything like that jumping off the board? I just looked and there wasn't a ton of stuff up yet. Is there anything that you like even in the betting market here?
Yeah, there wasn't much out before we jumped on here, just doing a refresh. I think on Prize Picks where I was looking, only the Washington-Charlotte game was out. And there wasn't even a rebound prop for Mark Williams, which I was looking at. Like if Mark Williams is at 9.5 rebounds, I'd be interested in that over. There's really not much out at all right now.
Yeah, I like the Mark Williams. His rebound is 11.5.
Oh, yeah, it's a big number. I don't know if I like it as much at 11.5.
I can see Gafford at 18.5 in that game. Points and rebounds.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he should have to get some run here, you would think, with Mark on the other side.
Yeah, you just always worry about foul trouble with Gafford. But if he got the run, I could see him having a 10-10 plus type game here. The one that I like a lot today, I already talked about it, is Chris Paul point and assist. I want to see what that kind of comes out at. Hate it. I mean, it's almost midnight. We usually have a lot more, but it is a massive slate. So sites are always careful on big slates like this. So Keith, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, injury news is obviously going to be huge. Like we talked about things we like, but it could change drastically by the time we get to lock.
Oh yeah, pay attention. It's massive. It's 14 game slate. 14 games. Hope everyone has a fantastic Wednesday. We'll be back on Friday talking basketball. Hope have a good one. Have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you then.